Welcome to the Heart of Economy channel. Today is not an ordinary video. We will analyze in detail how the US banking system has quietly collapsed, how the Federal Reserve is hiding this collapse behind the scenes, and shocking warnings Peter Schiff has made on this matter. This content is prepared to strengthen your financial awareness, protect your investment decisions, and help you see opportunities at the right time. If you're ready, let's begin. Peter Schiff's shocking warning: banks have failed. The sentence Peter Schiff calmly spoke on camera, but was actually like a dagger to the heart of the system, was this: all these banks are insolvent. Most people ignore this, because the American media says that banks are strong, insurance funds are ready, and there is no need to panic. People continue with their daily routines, grabbing coffee from Starbucks, rushing to work, scrolling through TikTok. But what's happening behind the scenes is much darker. Banks during the low interest period bought a lot of long-term bonds, mortgage-backed securities, and commercial real estate debts. At the time, these papers looked risk-free and sweet in return. But then inflation came, interest rates rose, the value of these papers melted. Imagine a bank holding a $100 million bond, but because interest rates have increased, its value today might be around $60 million. But the bank still shows on its balance sheet, we have an asset worth $100 million, trying to appear solid. This is not misconception, it's camouflage for bankruptcy. One day, if that bond has to be cashed out or if a liquidity crisis breaks out, the real value will be revealed and the bank will technically be bankrupt at that moment. This is why Peter Schiff says they have failed, even if it's not officially declared. In practice, the only reason many banks in the US can stay afloat is because they managed to hide this collapse. But this hide and seek cannot go on forever. This is where the Federal Reserve steps in. Banks take these devalued assets and knock on the Fed's door, saying, "Give us cash for these assets or we will collapse." Normally, if an asset is worth $60 million, the Fed should pay $60 million. But to prevent a crisis, the Fed accepts these now trash assets as if they are worth $100 million. This way, it gives cash to banks to prevent them from collapsing. During this process, banks take a deep breath. The balance sheet appears healthy on the surface, and the public thinks the banks are safe. But as Peter Schiff says, this is like a band-aid on cancer. These assets the Fed takes are actually temporary held. After a while, the Fed will give these assets back to the banks, and the banks will return the cash to the Fed in exchange. So what will happen then? Banks will not want to take back these devalued assets because as soon as they do, they will have to record the loss on their balance sheets. They will go bankrupt the moment they take them back. That's why banks won't want to take these assets back. The Fed won't want to give them back, but legally and for systematic balance, this return process will be expected. Peter Schiff's warning becomes clear here. This is not a system that can be sustained forever. Either the Fed will accept inflating its balance sheet indefinitely, devaluing the dollar and triggering inflation, or it will give back these assets, causing banks to fail. In other words, the Fed is stuck between two deadly choices. In the picture Peter Schiff paints, the Fed's only option seems to be to save the banks, because a mass bank collapse means unemployment, systematic crisis, social unrest, and political turmoil. However, if the Fed continues to print money and expand its balance sheet to save the banks, This will reduce the dollar's purchasing power. When people realize this, demand for the dollar will drop, foreign investors will start feeling from the dollar, and this will create more inflation. Inflation is a slow but effective collapse. The reality Schiff highlights is that the system will use inflation to stay afloat. Because inflation reduces the debt burden, allowing governments to shrink their debts in real terms, preventing chaos in the short term. But in the long term, it leads to the disappearance of the middle class, the erosion of saving, prices spiraling out of control, and growing social unrest. Peter Schiff doesn't just explain the structural setup, but explains one by one why inflation will not stop. Oil and energy crisis. Oil prices are approaching $100. The US sold its strategic reserves, and now it will have to buy more expensive oil to refill them. As energy costs increase, transportation, production, and food prices will rise in chain reaction. Social security spending. Millions in the US receive social security payments. These people consume without producing, creating demand but not increasing supply. This also contributes to rising prices. Supply chain problems. Tensions with China, global logistics issues, and geopolitical crises create supply constraints, pushing prices up. High interest debt crisis. Rising interest rates increase the US government's borrowing costs. More of the budget goes to interest payments, creating the need for more money, printing, and inflation. In 2008 and 2020, when the Fed cut rates, inflation was below 2%. So rate cuts and money printing reviewed the economy, providing a way out of the crisis. But now, with inflation hovering around 4 to 5%, cutting rates will be like pouring gasoline on a fire. Schiff says, if the Fed cuts rates, it will trigger inflation. If it doesn't, the bank will collapse. This is a dead end. A rate cut will quickly devalue the dollar, skyrocket gold and silver prices, create sudden upward waves in cryptocurrencies, and cause commodity prices to increase uncontrollably. This means wages will erode in real terms. Saving will lose value. Even if loan rates drop, product prices will rise so much that purchasing power will decline. Social unrest will increase. At Heartofeconomy, we have carefully analyzed Peter Schiff's warnings and foresee the following. Chronic inflation. The US and the world will not be able to control inflation, and a period of permanently high inflation will begin. Weakening of the dollar. The dollar's power as a reserve currency will weaken in the long term. China, Russia, and BRICS countries will accelerate alternative payment systems. Gold, silver, and commodities. In an inflationary environment, investors will seek safe havens, increasing demand for physical gold, silver, and energy commodities. Volatility in crypto markets. Inflation and interest rate dilemma will cause sharp up and down waves in crypto markets, while in the long term, interest will increase from those seeking secure storage alternatives. Waves of bank failures, especially in commercial real estate loans and SME loans, default rates will rise and new failures may occur in some regional banks. US budget crisis, rising interest expenses and social spending will disrupt the budget balance, requiring tax increases or cuts in some social spending, creating a risk of political crisis. A time of transformation for investors. This crisis is also a period of major wealth transfer. Investors who are prepared and position themselves correctly can emerge stronger from this crisis. Those who choose to analyze and act instead of ignoring these facts will gain an advantage. Those who notice this silent collapse, learn and build their strategy accordingly will come out ahead. At Heart of Economy, we will continue to monitor this process step by step and keep you informed with clear, straightforward analysis. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like it, subscribe to our channel, and share your views by written in the comments. Do you think the Fed will choose inflation or will it sacrifice the banks? Stay with Heart of Economy, stay strong, stay smart. See you in the next video.